There are probably some people out there that aren't sure about filleting a bluegill, whether they're going to get enough meat. Well, believe me, we get plenty. Even with bluegills that aren't very big, it's very easy to fillet them and get a nice scrumptious meal out of them. So if you'll just watch here closely, we'll show you my technique. I know everybody else does something different, but this works for me. I use the same pattern every time I do a bluegill, and it seems to work well. We do a lot of them. Freezer's full of fillets, and we eat a lot of fish here. So we'll just run through one, then I'll kind of explain a little bit what I'm doing. I say most of you probably have done this before and know exactly what you're doing, but some of you may not. Now here's just an average size bluegill, just about 7.5 inches, which looks like a pretty small fish, but actually there's quite a bit of good eating there. Now what I do is that the fish is already scaled, and I keep them in cold water, usually overnight. That will firm up the meat and makes scaling and filleting a whole lot easier. I just run the knife up behind the gill, cut part way through, only to the bone. A lot of people cut the heads off, but if you do that, then you have nothing to hang on to. You have a real dirty, bloody mess on your hands. This way there's usually no mess. Just run the knife right down the backbone, and as you're cutting, you want to make sure that you're pulling with your left hand, pulling the meat away, and then just run the knife between the fillet and the bone. Occasionally you will pick up a little bone. You can feel them. You just grab it, pull it out, flip it over, the other side. Say, this works well for me. I'm sure other people have their techniques. I do a lot of fish, and it works very well. We're going to do one more here. See if I can find a smaller one. Well, guess I already did the little one. This one's probably about 7 inches. Again, cut through, but not all the way through the bone, or the bones. Yep. The other side. Run the knife down the backbone, flip it over, and keep it on the backbone, and you can just feel it as you slice that part away. Flip it over, the other side. You know, whichever side you do first, that's your own preference. This just works well for me, and I do it the same way every time. And when we prepare our bluegills, we dip them in egg, roll them in pretzel crumbs. You can use crackers, Ritz, anything you'd like, cereals. We seem to really like the pretzels. And the pretzel we use is made by the Snack Factory deli pretzels. Now the sunfish here are a lot more difficult. They're a fatter fish, but they have a thinner fillet. And I would just soon not keep them if I had my choice, but I do like to eat fish. A little tougher getting it off the bone than the bluegill. And I say the fillet is a little bit thinner, but still you have a nice fillet. People say that's kind of small, but usually 5 or 6 of those, and that's a meal right there. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're a beginner out there and think that bluegills are too small to keep, well, you'll see that they aren't. We have a nice pan full of fillets there, and we're going to do some good eating.